Do you ever feel like you're thinking too much? Not in the overanalyzing, should I have said that kind of way, but in a much deeper, more existential sense.
You walk through life, and everything you see, hear, or experience echoes inside your mind for hours, days, even years. You're not just observing the world, you're absorbing it. And sometimes it's exhausting. This is the psychology of the deep thinker. But let's ask the question no one wants to answer. Is it a gift? Or is it a curse? Carl Jung once said, "A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them." Deep thinkers don't just pass through the inferno, they live there. They dwell in the fire of thoughts too large to contain, emotions too raw to numb, questions too dangerous to ask out loud. Most people live on the surface, and they are rewarded for it. Shiny, fast, shallow. That's what our world prefers. That's what it celebrates. If you scroll fast enough, think shallow enough, and smile often enough, you'll never have to feel the heaviness, the complexity, the sorrow. But what happens when you can't stop feeling it? What happens when the world moves too fast for your soul, but too slow for your mind? You begin to see things. You notice when people laugh, but their eyes don't follow. You hear the words they say, and also the ones they're afraid to. You question what others accept. You challenge what others consume. You sit in silence not because you're empty, but because you're too full to speak. And then the loneliness begins. Not the kind of loneliness you can cure with company. The kind of loneliness that comes from being different. Different in how you think, how you see, how you feel. You realize quickly that your mind isn't wired for small talk. That surface-level interactions drain you. That crowds make you feel more alone than solitude ever could. And the worst part, no one teaches you how to live like this. There are no guidebooks for people who can't stop thinking. No instructions for the ones who feel too deeply, see too clearly, or ask too much. So you improvise. You try to be normal. You shrink. You silence yourself. You pretend to laugh. You force yourself into conversations that bore you, relationships that numb you, and careers that drain you. Until one day, something inside you breaks. And that's when it hits you. This mind of yours, it was never meant to fit in. It was meant to see what others overlook, to question what others swallow, to build what others fear. But to do that, you must first accept the truth. This depth of thought, this inner world of yours will cost you. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be called too intense, too sensitive, too serious. You'll lose people, opportunities, maybe even your peace of mind. But you'll gain something far greater. Clarity, vision, truth. You'll begin to see the cracks in the system, the lies in the narratives, the emptiness in the applause. And you'll stop running from the chaos in your mind and start using it to build something real. Because here's what no one tells you. The world is starving for depth. It is suffocating under the weight of shallowness, drowning in noise, choking on its own image. And someone like you, someone who still thinks, feels, dreams, questions, someone like you is not a burden. You are the cure. Arthur Schopenhauer once observed, "Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see." Deep thinkers see what no one else dares to. And in that vision lies their greatest power. But power, when unclaimed, becomes torment. So the question is not whether this depth is a gift or a curse. The real question is, will you use it? Will you stop apologizing for seeing the world in ways others don't? Will you stop hiding behind silence and start turning your questions into creations? Will you stop treating your mind like a burden and start honoring it as the compass it truly is? Because the truth is simple. Yes, thinking deeply will cost you comfort, but living shallow will cost you everything else. This is your mind, your weight, your weapon, your invitation to something greater. Don't waste it. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs thinkers. It needs you. Do you ever wish your mind would just stop? Not forever, just for a moment. A moment without the spirals, the loops, the infinite what-ifs, the relentless why did I do that, or what does it mean? The overthinking, the underfeeling, the unbearable volume of being awake in your own head. And yet, no matter how tired you are, no matter how much you beg for silence, it never stops. Why? Because your mind is not a passive passenger in life. It's a relentless engine, a radar, a searchlight scanning the darkness for answers no one else dares to look for. Most people want distraction. You want depth. Most people want escape. You want understanding. But this isn't a choice, is it? It's not something you decided. It's how you were wired. Even as a child, you probably asked the questions no one could answer. You didn't just play, you wondered. You didn't just follow, you questioned. You didn't just exist, you analyzed every second of it. Your thoughts don't pause when the conversation ends. They begin. You replay words. You detect subtext. You sense tension. You read meaning into the smallest glance. And you wonder why no one else sees what you do. Because most people's minds rest. They shut off when the lights do. They live on the surface and float through moments, barely scratching at the substance beneath. But not you. Your mind is a theater with no curtains, a storm with no calm, a question with no period. Nietzsche once wrote, "When you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you." For the deep thinker, the abyss isn't terrifying. It's home. But what does that cost you? Let's talk about that. You lay in bed at 2 a.m. eyes wide open, not because you're afraid, but because your brain is racing a marathon it never signed up for. You remember the argument from 3 weeks ago. You dissect what they said. You analyze why it hurt. And then you go deeper. What does that say about you? About them? About human nature? About trauma? About connection? You've gone from a single sentence to the architecture of the psyche in 90 seconds. This is not unusual for you. This is daily life. And when you try to explain this to someone, what do they say? You think too much. Relax. Let it go. But how do you explain to someone that this is how your mind survives? That this overthinking isn't weakness, it's a form of vigilance. That this intensity isn't a flaw, it's how you navigate a world that often feels false, fragile, or dangerously unaware. Deep thinkers don't just think, they feel their thoughts. They see the world through a lens that magnifies every inconsistency, every contradiction, every unspoken truth. And so their minds never rest. Not because they don't want peace, but because peace is impossible when the world is pretending. When conversations are surface level, but your soul craves depth. When relationships are transactional, but you long for the sacred. When existence is fast, but your truth moves slow. So what happens? You retreat. You distance yourself. Not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. Because sometimes, it's less painful to be alone with your thoughts than to be surrounded by people who don't think at all. You start building a world inside your mind. A refuge, a fortress, a universe. And in that space, you begin to create art, philosophy, ideas, systems, stories. Your thoughts take shape. Your feelings find form. Because thinking for you isn't just mental, it's spiritual. It's how you process reality, how you locate meaning, how you survive. But here's the tragedy. Society doesn't value this. It rewards speed, simplicity, conformity. It doesn't want you to think deeply. It wants you to consume quickly. It doesn't want your discomforting truths. It wants comforting lies. So you become alienated, outcast, misunderstood. Because a restless mind in a sedated culture is a threat. You start asking dangerous questions. Why are we doing this? Who benefits? What is real? What is right? And for that, you pay a price. Isolation, overwhelm, fatigue. But you also gain something others never do. Insight, vision, wisdom. You see the arc of things. You sense what's coming. You read the patterns. And that is where your power lies. Because while others panic, you've already predicted. While others react, you've already reflected. While others obey, you've already outgrown. But here's the danger. Without grounding, this mind becomes a prison, a loop, a labyrinth, a hall of mirrors. Because a mind that never rests must learn how to land. You must create practices that stabilize you, that bring your thoughts back into the body, that reconnect your wisdom with the world. Because no matter how brilliant your insights are, if they never touch real life, they die in the echo chamber of abstraction. So breathe, feel the ground, talk to trees, write it out, meditate, learn when to hold the question and when to set it down. Because your mind is not broken, it's gifted, but every gift needs discipline. And every deep thinker must learn the art of balancing the mind with the moment. So ask the questions, but also rest. Feel everything, but also let it pass. Think deeply, but don't forget to live. Because the goal is not to stop thinking. The goal is to become someone who knows when to dive deep and when to come up for air. Only then can you truly live. Only then can you lead. Only then can your restless mind become not your torment, but your teacher. Have you ever felt alone in a crowded room? You're surrounded by voices, by laughter, by motion, and yet deep inside, there is a hollow silence, a stillness that refuses to leave. That is the loneliness of a deep thinker. Not the absence of people, but the absence of understanding. We live in the noisiest age in human history. Notifications, advertisements, entertainment on demand. The world never shuts up. And yet, amidst this chaos, some minds seek meaning. But meaning is quiet. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And to hear it, one must disconnect. Here's the irony. The more you think, the more alien you may feel. You analyze, reflect, question. You don't accept things as they are. And because of that, the world can feel foreign. People will say, lighten up. Why do you think so much? Just go with the flow. But what if the flow leads to emptiness? Deep thinkers struggle with superficiality. It's not that they reject joy. It's that they want joy with depth, connection with truth, love without masks. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone. And if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom." But solitude, while noble, can also be brutal, because we are social creatures, and even the most introspective mind craves connection. But not the small talk kind, not the "how's the weather" kind, the kind that looks into your soul and doesn't flinch. Do you remember the last time someone truly listened to you? Not just nodded, not just waited for their turn to speak, but really listened? That moment is rare. That moment is sacred, because most people listen to reply. Deep thinkers listen to understand, and they want to be understood. But in a world addicted to distraction, depth becomes a threat. The thinker becomes the outsider. The philosopher becomes the anomaly. So what happens? You begin to shrink yourself, hide your questions, mask your complexity, pretend to care about what everyone else does, smile when you feel empty, laugh when you want to scream. It's exhausting, and it's lonely, not because you're unlovable, but because your language is different. Your values are different. Your hunger is different. You don't crave validation. You crave resonance. But resonance can't be bought. It can't be forced. It must be found. And for many, it's a long, solitary path. Yet there's power in that path. Because the one who walks alone learns things others never do. They hear the silence. They read between the lines. They feel the pulse of life in ways others miss. Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." Let that sink in. Loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being unheard. You might be surrounded by hundreds of people and still feel invisible, because no one sees the battles you fight inside. No one sees the questions you carry. No one sees the world through your eyes. But here's what you must remember. Your depth is not a curse. Your mind is not a burden. Your loneliness is not a weakness. It's a signal. It's the universe saying, you are different, and that is your strength. Yes, the world is loud. Yes, it often rewards the shallow. Yes, depth can be isolating. But don't let the volume of the world drown out the wisdom within you. You were not meant to fit in. You were meant to wake people up. So what can you do in this noisy world? You can go deeper. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. Ask the questions no one wants to ask. Sit with the discomfort. Feel the silence. Embrace solitude not as exile, but as sanctuary. Because it is there, in that silence, that you will meet yourself. And maybe, just maybe, someone else who speaks your language will hear you. They will find you not because you chased them, but because you dared to be real in a world of masks. So if you feel alone in this loud world, remember, you are not broken. You are rare. And the rarest minds are often the quietest. But they are the ones who shape the future. Not with noise, but with truth. Keep thinking. Keep feeling. Keep being. Because the world needs your mind, even if it doesn't know it yet. Have you ever wondered why the more aware you become, the heavier life feels? There's a certain burden that comes with seeing clearly. It's not something people talk about at dinner tables or post about on social media. It's not celebrated, but it is real, deeply real. Awareness is not a gift wrapped in gold. It's a quiet fire that never goes out. Once it's lit, it burns through illusions, through comfort, through ignorance, and what it reveals can be terrifying. Because once you see, you cannot unsee. You start to notice the small cruelties in people's words, the emptiness behind their smiles, the hollow routines of daily life, the way the world runs, not on love or truth, but on ego, fear, and distraction. Most people don't want to see that. They don't want to see that the things they chase might be meaningless, that their job might be draining their soul, that their relationship might be rooted in habit, not connection. But the deep thinker, they see it, they feel it, and with that sight comes solitude. You realize how rare it is for people to question, to dig beneath the surface. You begin to understand why so many prefer the comfort of conformity over the chaos of truth. And that understanding isolates you. You can't go back to sleep. You can't fake enthusiasm for small talk. You can't laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You can't pretend your soul isn't screaming. So you withdraw, not because you hate people, but because you need to protect your energy. There's a quote often misattributed but powerful nonetheless. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And when you're aware, you see that sickness. The news cycles that manufacture fear. The systems that reward compliance, not creativity. The education that kills curiosity. The beauty standards that shame uniqueness. The culture that confuses visibility with value. And it hurts, because you can't save everyone. You can't shake people awake. You can't make them see what they're not ready to see. And sometimes, that helplessness is the heaviest weight of all. You see a friend lost in toxic patterns, and you can't fix them. You watch your parents suffer silently, and you can't heal them. You witness injustice, and your voice isn't loud enough. So what do you do with all this awareness? Do you numb it? Do you bury it beneath distractions? Or do you carry it like a cross, letting it define you, break you? Neither. You transform it, because awareness, while painful, is also powerful. It's the first step to wisdom, the soil in which true compassion grows. Think of the great minds, Nietzsche, Jung, Dostoevsky, Simone Weil. They weren't lighthearted. They weren't carefree. They wrestled with darkness. They stared into the abyss. But in doing so, they gave us light. You are not broken because life feels heavy. You are awake. And with awakening comes responsibility. Not to fix the world, but to live honestly, to speak truth, to embody depth in a culture of surfaces. It's not an easy path, but it's the only one that leads to something real. You will be misunderstood. People will say you're too intense, too serious, too emotional. They'll tell you to stop thinking so much, to enjoy life. But what they mean is, be like us. They don't say it out of malice. They say it out of fear. Your awareness reflects what they've buried. Your questions stir their discomfort. Your presence challenges their assumptions. So they label you overthinker, dramatic, complicated. Wear those labels with pride. They mean you haven't given in. They mean you still feel. And feeling in a numbed-out world is rebellion. The weight of awareness is not a punishment. It's proof that your heart is still beating, that your soul still seeks, that your mind still questions. It's lonely, yes, but you are not alone. Others carry the weight too. Others think in silence. Others feel the world deeper than they let on. And maybe, just maybe, they're waiting for someone like you to speak first. To say, I see you. I feel it too. Because connection doesn't require sameness. It requires sincerity. So don't shrink to fit. Don't play small to comfort others. Don't pretend you're not burning with questions. That flame is your compass. Let it guide you. Write. Speak. Create. Not for applause, but for truth. Because one honest voice can shift a room. One raw poem can save a soul. One brave question can start a revolution. And yes, it's heavy, but you were built to carry it. Not alone. Not forever. But long enough to become what this world so desperately needs. A mind that sees, a heart that feels, a soul that dares. So ask yourself, not how to escape the weight, but how to use it. Because awareness is not the end of innocence. It's the beginning of authenticity. You don't need to be lighter. You need to be real. And the real ones? They're the ones who change everything. Have you ever wondered why the ones who speak the least often see the most? Why those who stay on the edges of the crowd tend to understand the entire room? Insight doesn't come from noise. It comes from stillness, from watching, from listening when others are too busy talking, from asking the questions no one dares to ask out loud. In a world obsessed with attention, the deep thinker holds a different kind of power, the power of insight. It doesn't demand applause. It doesn't clamor for validation. It simply sees. This kind of seeing is not passive. It is fierce, clear, penetrating. It's what allows someone to look through the surface of things, through words, through posture, through performance. It's the kind of perception that makes others uncomfortable, not because it is cruel, but because it is accurate. Carl Jung once wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." This is the essence of insight, awakening. It is born not from accumulation of facts, but from an inner clarity that cuts through delusion. That's why insight is often quiet. it doesn't need a megaphone. It needs honesty, and honesty in its purest form is rare. Most people aren't looking for truth. They're looking for comfort, agreement, echo chambers. But the person with insight is different. They ask questions that unsettle. They live with contradictions. They notice when the room shifts, when the energy changes, when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes. They may not say anything, but they know. They always know. Have you ever felt that? That you can feel the undertone of a conversation before the words begin? That you see what isn't being said more clearly than what is? It's a gift and a burden, because you can't shut it off. You can't unknow what you know. You can't participate in charades when you see the strings behind the puppets. This is what makes life so complex for the insightful mind. It's not just the world's chaos, it's the awareness of it, the acute sensitivity to nuance, the perpetual confrontation with the contradictions of human nature. You see the hypocrisy, the posturing, the illusions. You watch people lie to themselves and call it peace. You watch people pursue what destroys them and call it success. And the more you see, the less you fit. Insight separates. It doesn't isolate by nature, but by effect. Because when you carry this kind of clarity, you speak a language fewer and fewer understand. It's the language of honesty, of depth, of presence. And it scares people, not because it's wrong, but because it's real. We live in a culture where the shallow is celebrated, where appearances matter more than substance, where speed is praised and reflection is dismissed, where followers are counted, but wisdom is ignored. To be insightful in such a culture is to constantly feel out of place. But here's the truth. The ones who change the world aren't the loudest. They're the ones who see what others miss. The ones who sit in the back and read the room. Who pick up on the patterns. Who listen to the silence. Who connect the dots. Who speak only when the words matter. They may not be on the stage, but they shape the future. Because insight isn't just observation. It's transformation. When you truly see something, you cannot relate to it the same way. Insight changes you. It shifts your values, your reactions, your decisions. And once your inner world shifts, the outer world follows. That's power. Silent power. It's the kind of power that doesn't crave titles or trophies. It doesn't need to win arguments or dominate conversations. It simply knows. And that knowing is enough. But it comes with a cost. You see relationships for what they are, not what you wish them to be. You see the traps people build with their own hands. You see the pain behind the performance. And often, you feel powerless to intervene. Because truth, no matter how clear, must be chosen. You can offer insight, but you can't force awakening. That's where the true strength lies, in knowing when to speak and when to simply hold space. To understand that not every truth needs to be spoken. That sometimes, silence is the deepest wisdom. This is not detachment. It's maturity. It's emotional intelligence rooted in clarity. Because insight, when combined with compassion, becomes healing. You don't judge. You understand. You don't condemn. You reflect. You don't attack. You illuminate. It's tempting to retreat completely, to disappear from the noise and chaos. But remember, your insight is not just for you. It's meant to be shared, not as doctrine, but as light, not to control, but to guide. Your voice matters, not because it's loud, but because it carries truth. And in a world drowning in noise, truth is rare. Use your insight to write, to mentor, to comfort, to challenge, to disrupt, gently, firmly, and always from a place of authenticity. Don't doubt your vision. Don't dilute your perception to fit in. Don't apologize for seeing deeper. Insight is a form of love. It's love for truth, for clarity, for growth. You don't need permission to speak it. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You just need to keep seeing. And keep choosing presence over pretense. That is your silent revolution. In the stillness of your mind, a storm of wisdom brews. Let it rain. Let it nourish. Let it change the soil where lies have grown. You are not strange. You are not broken. You are gifted with a mind that cuts through fog. And this world, lost in illusion, desperately needs that. So be still. See clearly. Speak truthfully. You don't need to shout. You only need to see. Because sometimes the most powerful presence in the room is the one who simply understands.